Today, I am pleased to welcome Barbara Fairchild, who is editor-in-chief of Bon Appétit magazine. She joined the magazine staff in 1978 as an editorial assistant and spent most of the 15 years as the executive editor before being promoted to editor-in-chief in 2000. She is a frequent guest on radio and television programs about food, restaurants, travel, and popular culture, and has been recognized by the James Beard Foundation's Who's Who of Food and Beverage in America. She is also the author of the best-selling Bon Appétit Cookbook and the new cookbook, Bon Appétit magazine's Fast, Easy, Fresh. Thank you. Since she knows the book better than I do, allow me to introduce Barbara Fairchild.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I have to say, I don't mind if you have to work on your laptop or eating. I know it's lunchtime. I'm used to being in a place where people are eating while I'm talking. So, in fact, my house was a lot like that when I was growing up, so working at Bon Appétit, it wasn't too much of a stretch. I know I'm here today to talk about our new cookbook, Fast, Easy, Fresh, and I'm going to be signing them later after my talk, and I also wanted to please encourage you all to ask questions. I would much rather hear from you than to have me, have a one-way conversation with myself. So before I start talking about the book, some of my people are here from the publisher Wiley, so I have to talk about the book, but I do want to talk a little bit about the magazine, because it suddenly occurred to me that unlike a lot of groups that I speak in front of, you are not necessarily all that well-versed in this fantastic product that comes out every month called Bon Appétit magazine. This is our current December issue. And what I wanted to also say, which is something that really most people don't know whether they're in the food business or not, is that Bon Appétit magazine is based, is based in Los Angeles. We are not a New York-based magazine. All of my editorial staff, with the exception of 4 people who are here in New York, where our business side is based at Condé Nast Publications, with the exception of 4 editors who are based here. All of my editorial staff, all of the art, photo, production, they're all based in LA. So I frequently, actually, when I talk about the fact that, and this is absolutely true, I'm not just saying it because I'm here, the fact that all of the innovators in the US over the last half century have been from the West Coast. I cite Google and Microsoft and Amazon and Bon Appétit. I think that's one of the reasons that our magazine has remained among the premier magazines and best-selling magazines and has been so successful, because I feel that, no offense to you all who work here, but I feel that things that are based on the West Coast have a different viewpoint from things that are based on the East Coast. And I think that the spirit of innovation and the spirit of creativity and freshness and brightness that we bring to the magazine every month is very much a reflection of the fact that we're based in LA. I like to make a joke that all of the food trends that have started in the last 30 years have started on the West Coast, either in LA or San Francisco, made their way across the country until all the New Yorkers take credit for it. So anyway, and it's very true. So 2 years ago, we, for the first time ever, in our 50th year of publishing, did a cookbook that was sold in the general marketplace. We'd done a series of smaller books, mostly by direct mail, before that, but our big 50th anniversary Bon Appétit cookbook was really our statement. It had over 1,200 recipes and was a big success. Obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be doing a second book with the same company. And I learned pretty quickly, because for me it was truly a learning experience to be someone who goes out and pitches a book idea instead of talking about a magazine every month. I realized that the best time to put out a proposal for a new book would be while the first book is selling really well. So at the time, we had and still have in the magazine a column called Fast, Easy, Fresh. This is 2.5 years ago. It was only then about 1.5 years old. And it's a feature of the magazine every month in which these fast, easy, fresh recipes really make a statement about who we are. And all of the recipes are created by the women in the test kitchen and our very talented staff of veterans, many of whom have been there almost as long as I have. And believe me, I just celebrated my 30th anniversary at the magazine, and I had a big party in LA with my entire staff, and I said to many of them, it's not lost on me the fact that many of you were not even born when I started at the magazine, but anyway, including my assistant. But what I wanted to say was that we put the proposal through simply because it had become a very popular column almost instantly, and we knew that we had touched a nerve with the whole fast, easy, fresh concept. Little did I know that in the 2 very speedy years that it took to put this book together, that all of a sudden the zeitgeist was merging with the fast, easy, fresh idea with what was going on now 2 years later with the economy. That people are going back home, people are eating out less in restaurants, people want to learn how to cook. Certainly what I really am excited about being here at Google today, knowing that the average age is 28 years old, is that this is a book for you. Whether you think you can't even boil water properly, this book has 1,100 truly fast, easy, fresh recipes in it. Fabulous for beginners, fantastic for anybody who's busy. We, of course, had aimed it at, every night cooking or weeknight cooking, but any of the food in here would be absolutely fine to do when you're getting together with your friends on a Friday or a Saturday night. So if you're at all intimidated in the kitchen and you think you can't do it, this is the book that you need to have, even if you have only one book. So it was interesting by the time the book came out last month that rather than just talking about the great, fast, easy, fresh aspects of these recipes, I was also able to point out that cooking with fresh ingredients and shopping locally and eating locally and being aware of the farmers markets and shopping in the produce aisle and being aware of the new produce and the new spices and the very good quality convenience items, because they do exist. As we all know, the greatest invention in the last 30 years, salad in a bag, in my opinion. Far better than the paper napkin. We could have always used paper towels, but we could have never lived without the bag salad. So this book is designed to help you get started in the kitchen, and if you've already started in the kitchen and you're an accomplished cook or a moderately accomplished cook, there's a lot of fun things in here. One thing that we did with this book that I am very proud of, because we obviously have a lot of busy people on our staff as well, working at the magazine, not just as our audience, is that we organized the book in an entirely different way. We did not do it as main courses, appetizers, and desserts, sort of, your classic format, blah, blah, boring, boring, same old, same old. What we did is we sat down and we thought, okay, how do you make out your shopping list when you're someone who needs to get the dinner on the table 5 nights a week, or you want to get dinner on the table 5 nights a week because you know that it's less expensive to do that and the food tastes better. And it's better for you and it's better for your kids if you have kids. Well, this is what you do. You think, okay, one night we're going to have chicken, another night we're probably going to have salmon, then we might do something vegetarian, probably do a pasta, maybe we might do a sandwich or a burger. And that's exactly what these chapters are. When you see the book, you'll see the chapters are chicken, shrimp, salmon, fish, salmon and other fish. We have pizza, pasta, burgers, sandwiches, main course salads, soups, chilies, and stews. We've got all of the baking in this book. If you want to come home one night and you're totally frustrated and you think, it would be really great if I made like a batch of lemon bars, right? At least that's the way I think. That's probably why I work at Bon Appétit. But anyway, there's always that big bottle of whiskey in the back of the closet too, I guess. But anyway, lemon bars or brownies would probably do it for me better. And these are all quick and simple, again, recipes in the baking part of this book. We've got some frozen desserts in there that are very easy. No big fancy constructs. We had those in the 50th anniversary book, and hopefully we'll have a lot of people in the country who have both of these books, which, by the way, are perfectly color coordinated. They look stunning next to each other on the shelf. We thought about that too, but no detail goes unconsidered when we work at Bon Appétit. So I'm very proud of the practicality of this book because it really reflects well on the magazine, and with anything that we do these days. And as we've done in the past, accessibility has always been our mantra and our commitment at the magazine. Accessibility, ease of use, and also what we do so well, I feel, is take a classic recipe, whether it's a so-called American recipe or these days Mexican or Chinese or Italian or whatever, and we give it a little twist so that you, looking at the recipe, can think, okay, well, I've had something like that, but oh, look, this has pomegranate molasses in it, or wow, what's wasabi powder, or panko crumbs, I don't know what those are. And so it gets you intrigued, it gets you re-energized. Now, actually, the recipes in this book do not ignore those sort of, what previously would have been known as an esoteric ingredient, because I don't think those ingredients are so esoteric anymore. McCormick Schilling is making a chipotle chili powder now, not just regular old chili powder. So in this book, you'll find recipes that use some of these intriguing ingredients that maybe you've even bought them and they're now gathering dust on the back of the shelf or perhaps turning blue in your refrigerator. So, I feel sort of of two minds of this kind of specialty ingredient thing. I know that in many instances, in most instances in the magazine, a specialty ingredient like pomegranate molasses, which seems to be on my brain in this entire tour, will add some real interest to a dish. I also know that you can get it on the internet if you can't find it on in your supermarket shelf, which is a whole other thing I want to address in a few minutes. But when you buy it, you're probably going to use about 2 teaspoons of it, and then it is going to become one of those things that sits in the refrigerator and turns blue. So one of the things that I wanted to do with this book is not shy away from those recipes, because people have these things in their pantry and in their fridges now. I think one of the 3 things that I like to talk about when I'm talking about the food scene of the last 25 to 30 years are the three revolutions that I have seen in my career. One is certainly the rise of the internet. One is certainly what I call the supermarket revolution. And the other is really the rise of food on television and the cult of the celebrity chef. We had a wave of celebrity chefs in the early to mid 80s, but that was before the advent of so much food on television, and it was sort of a whole different style of celebrity chef, and really the only way that they got to be celebrities was through magazines and books and the newspaper, because television still consisted mostly of Julia Child and Jacques Pepin and a few others being on television. Now, sadly, Julia seems to have gone by the wayside, or her style of cooking seems to have gone by the wayside, and it's very much become food as entertainment for all of you who watched the Top Chef premiere last night, I'm sure. So those 3 things, the internet, the supermarket revolution, and television, have all affected what we do. What we do at the magazine is go away from all that. Certainly we use the internet as an enhancing tool for you being able to order ingredients. Certainly we have a very active and thriving website at bonappetit.com. Please sign up for our Take 5 newsletter. It would really be great. And one of the things that we did when we wanted to relaunch the website was make sure that while it was a part of the magazine or of the magazine, it didn't just repeat what was in the magazine. So I urge you to go out onto it. We have a whole bunch of fun stuff happening out there. The main focus of it is called the Bon Appétit Top 100 Dishes, which rotates in and out as far as seasonality and also holidays and so forth. There's a base of recipes that will always be on there. For instance, if it kind of follows what I talk about when I talk about in this book on the book jacket, which starts out, it's 4 o'clock, do you know where your dinner is? If you're sitting in your office and you don't have this book with you, you go out on bonappetit.com and you type in roast chicken, because you have a whole roast chicken in the fridge. What's great about it is that instead of giving you 10,000 recipes for roast chicken, we did on the website what we do as editors of the magazine, which is we have curated it and edited it down for you. So you get 1 recipe for roast chicken with 2 or 3 variations. And what comes up is a recipe with a picture, and you run your mouse and over it, and you'll see that you can learn how to chop an onion on this video. You can find out what this ingredient really is. You can order this piece of cooking equipment that you need for it from this person, click here. You can buy the serving utensils that you see, or some of the cooking utensils that you see, by clicking over here. So we've really created on our website a 360-degree experience for cooks who are in a hurry and who just want to come to us through the website. I understand now, believe me, I understand now, that while the people who read the magazine use the website in that sort of a synchronistic way, I also know that there are a lot of people who use only the website. And I hope that they come to the magazine and are inspired by what they see on the website to have the rich, full experience that thumbing through a magazine can still have. But as far as the website's concerned, I think we've made it super practical, and we actually have 2 bloggers. One is a young woman named Bridget who lives here in New York with a very small kitchen, and a fellow named Chris Hall who lives in Berkeley with all the bells and whistles and can get any kind of ingredient that he wants. And they are actually blogging their way through the top 100. And sometimes it's not always so successful, which I knew, was going to be part of it, but I think that only adds to the experience for people who are coming to us for the first time, through the website. So please check out bonappetit.com and please sign up for the newsletter. It would make me very happy. Anyway, back to the book. Another thing that's really fantastic about this book is that you actually get a free 1-year subscription to the magazine when you buy it. So that is something that we initiated with the sale of the first book. I think it's really something that had not ever been done before in publishing with Connection with Magazine in a book. Pam Churls, who's my editor at Wiley, is nodding her head. I think we've sort of really set a new standard. And I haven't noticed what other magazines have come out with books lately, but I'm sort of wondering if they're going to start doing the same thing. One other thing that I wanted to say about the book is also its ease of use. The one thing that I love about it is that you can open it to almost any, and you can open it at any page and it lies flat. How great is that? Speaking of details. And you will see on these 2 pages 4 recipes, which means we are not kidding when we say these are fast and easy, because if they weren't, one recipe would take up 4 pages. So again, the way that it's organized, and in fact, very easy to read, very easy to follow, mostly with the odd specialty ingredient here and there, mostly with things that you that you already have in your pantry and your fridge, and things that you can easily get on your way home if you're inspired to see something. I was actually looking through 2 sections yesterday. One was the turkey section, because I was anticipating the turkey leftovers 2 weeks from today. And I know that we had some recipes in here that used cooked turkey. There's a really great sounding burrito and a turkey piccata or turkey tonado recipe that sounds good. I have twin 13-year-old nephews who I have turned into foodies, I'm very proud to say, somewhat to my sister's consternation occasionally, but they are foodies and they love to cook, and they're 13, and I knew that they're going to be staying with us in LA over the holiday, and I thought, this would be fun on Friday, after what can we make together? And I just looked at these recipes and I thought, they're so easy, I'm just going to turn it all over to them. I'm putting my feet up and they can do whatever they want in the kitchen. I don't even have to help. It's very good. So I was looking through that, and then I was also looking through the chicken chapter, because I happen to think that, first of all, everybody loves chicken. We have a funny conversation going on right now, funny but wise conversation going on right now at the magazine about what we call the chickenization of America. And I love the book because it has more than 80 recipes just for chicken. And everybody has chicken breasts and chicken thighs and whole chickens in their fridges and their freezers. And a few of the recipes that we have in here are really basically about 5 or 6 other ingredients plus the chicken. And to go back to what I was talking about a few minutes ago, one of these is a very good illustration of what I was talking about. Everybody knows, or people who like to cook, or people who eat this kind of thing, a very classic thing to do with a chicken breast is to, beat up some egg, dip the chicken breast in egg, roll it in flour or breadcrumbs, saute it off in a pan, and then do something with all the little good bits that are, throw in some wine, throw in some whatever, salt and pepper, lemon juice, whatever, some herbs, and you've got a really nice meal. Well, we have, to go back to the point of a few minutes ago, we have a recipe in here which is that exact technique, only instead of dipping the chicken into flour or regular breadcrumbs, it does use panko crumbs, and the crumbs have wasabi powder mixed into them. So you have this nice, again, new take, little sophisticated twist on a classic recipe that makes it entirely new. And when we were talking to people before this book came out, and by people I mean a lot of people on the staff, what is it about Monday through Friday cooking, or even if you're only cooking 2 nights a week or 3 nights a week, or 1 night a week, what is it about that you really want? You want to be not bored. Everyone is bored. You know, that thing that I was talked about, okay, we're going to have salmon, we're going to have chicken, we're going to do a pasta, we're going to do a vegetarian. Everyone wants something more interesting, and I think that this is the book that really delivers on that. There's another recipe for a whole roasted chicken, which everybody knows how to do. I mean, the easiest thing to do with the chicken is, you know, slap some salt and pepper on it, stick it in the oven, and you've got a great meal in about an hour and 10 minutes. We have 2 recipes for whole chicken in here that are really fantastic. One is it takes a whole chicken and you make a flavored butter out of some of the flavorings for gremolata, which is a classic garnish for ossobuco. It has fresh herbs and lemon peel and garlic, and you mix a little softened butter into it, and you just put that all over the chicken, and you roast it for about 20 minutes in the oven. And after 20 minutes, you open up the oven and you throw in the chickens on a rack, and underneath it on the baking sheet, you put a box or a package of frozen artichoke hearts, which are, I think, a very good quality convenience food. And the artichokes go underneath the chicken, so while the chicken is cooking, it gets all that good stuff off of the chicken while it's roasting, the butter and the fat, and it bastes the artichokes so that at an hour and 10 minutes you have this great whole roast chicken, perfectly browned and gorgeous and crisp, and you've got the side dish to go with it. So you make salad out of your bag or whatever. If you want to have a salad, some great bread, a bottle of wine, and you've got, that's a great meal for any night of the week or the weekend. And then another one that I came across yesterday, and I was looking at the turkey recipes, was another whole roast chicken, which is a Moroccan spicing, which is literally the chicken, and about 7 or 8 things that everybody has in their pantry: cinnamon, cumin, salt, pepper, chili powder, and a couple of other things, maybe 2 other things. Mix that all together, rub it all over the chicken. Before you've done that, you've squirted the chicken with just a fresh lemon. You've stuck the lemon in the cavity and some garlic as well. Rub the spices all over the chicken, and that's it. That goes in the oven for an hour and 10 minutes, and you've got dinner. And it's different. It's something different to do with the whole chicken. So that's really the beauty of this book. You'll find a lot of things that are familiar, great, macaroni and cheese, great burgers, all with that little twist that Bon Appétit gives it. And as I said, if you are just starting out in the kitchen, maybe you've never even cooked anything in your life, this is the place to start because the recipes are so easy, they're filled with familiar ingredients, and you really know that when you're in the kitchen, you're actually in the kitchen with us, with our test kitchen ladies, holding your hand and telling you exactly what to do. We do test every recipe in the magazine. We eat twice a day at Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We test at 11:30 and 2 o'clock. So if you're ever coming to visit me in LA, I recommend arriving around noon or 2:30 when we're done. The editors who are responsible for the story, as well as someone from the art department, somebody else from the test kitchen staff who's not testing the recipe, and the food editors sit down and test everything. We ring a bell. It's very Pavlovian. I've gotten so used to it now, I don't even hear it. And then after they do their initial evaluation that's really pertaining to the story that we're working on, we ring the bell again, and everybody who works on the staff can come in. The copy editors, research people, anybody who works at the magazine, all the assistants, everyone can come in and taste the food. And it's interesting because the Google culture, I think, is very, very similar. It's interesting, no matter what you really do at Bon Appetit, it really helps to taste the food. Whether you're just a copy editor or a fact checker, it just really helps to sort of get a sense of what we're talking about when you're sitting there reading the copy. And plus, it's a lot of fun, and it's a nice perk of working there. I have to say, as with most magazines, we do end up testing. Thanksgiving is in July. And right now, we literally are getting ready to test the barbecue issue. But it's interesting to me, and I do love this part of it, is the fact that it doesn't matter if it's 100 degrees on July 10th or whenever we're starting to test for the Thanksgiving issue. It doesn't matter what the weather is outside. When people know that it's turkey, gravy, and stuffing, they come running. It doesn't matter. And then after the second session, or what we call the second testing, if there's anything left over, people can just package it up and take it home. So our staff eats very well. I think their kids eat a lot of good cookies and brownies too. So that's basically how we work with the food stories. The people who provide those stories by and large, are just professional food writers, so the testing usually goes very well. Obviously, our test kitchen staff is very good at spotting things ahead of time. Obviously, they read through the recipes before anything gets tested. The ones that we have the most trouble with are the ones that we get from chefs, because, and we have a very popular column in the magazine called RSVP, that's been at the magazine even longer than I have, which are recipes from restaurants and inns and cruise ships and all kinds of places where people go. And we solicit the recipes from there. And a lot of times, I feel as if the chef, when I started Bon Appétit, I worked in the test kitchen. I was the person who scheduled all the testings, and I used to obviously review all the recipes. And even back then, I thought to myself, oh, I wonder if this is really the recipe. Because it seems like, the person who asked for it was so effusive about the taste of it, and it had this, this nuance or this hint of something, and then that hint of something isn't even in the list. So for one thing, chefs they're not used to cooking for a home-size audience. So, sometimes we have to take the 60 gallons of soup and make them for 8 people. And then other times I feel that, maybe that secret little thing isn't included in the recipe that we've gotten, or we don't hear from them. So then they want to share the recipe anyway. That's very rare. And it is very rare, as I said, that we have a dud, because we test ahead. We troubleshoot before we test the recipe. And occasionally we do have to test a recipe again. And when we do, that's the second time is it. If it does not work after the second time, it doesn't run in the magazine, because if my team in the test kitchen can't make it work after 2 testings, no one at home is going to have any success with it either. So definitely, we work very hard to bring the recipes to you. And you see 1,100 of them in this book that have all been tested by our test kitchen staff. Something else that our books, I feel, have as a trademark, both this book and the book from 2 years ago, is that we have stunning color photography. It's very unusual for a book of this size and really at this price to have 36 or 48 pages of full color photography. But I know that the built-in audience of the Bon Appétit reader who goes and sees this book in the marketplace would expect it. And for those of you who may not be familiar with Bon Appétit at all, it's a lovely surprise or a lovely garnish to the recipes to be able to see a lot of them in full, delicious color that are hopefully as inspiring in the book as they are in the magazine. I mean, I know that before I worked at Bon Appétit, I actually was a subscriber. And as a young bride, I grew up in a household where food was very important. My mom is an excellent cook. I love to cook. And for me, it was always so amazing at, age 20, 21, 22, that I could make a recipe that looked like a recipe in a magazine. It looked exactly like the magazine. And that's something I've never forgotten. It's something that, my staff has ingrained in their heads, that we have to present it in language that is clearly understood so that people can recreate in the magazine and from the books what they see in the pictures. So I like to say, young bride cooking from the magazine, and 30 years later, same magazine, different husband. But that's the way things go. Anyway, I would love to take your questions. Again, I hope that all of you, do take a look at the book if you haven't bought it already. Thumb through it and really see what I'm talking about as far as its utility and its welcoming you into our wonderful category. I really want to see people average age 28 buying this book and getting into our magazine and using our website, because I have an excellent farmer's market near my house in LA. We have a lovely little cheese shop. We have a wine shop. And I see people who are 25, 28, 30 shopping, especially in the farmer's market on Sunday. And I just think, oh, I really hope that they're reading the magazine. I think I should probably, have a sandwich sign or something, wear it, walk down the farmer's market and with subscription slips, handing them out. Yes?
Hi, thank you so much. I have 2 questions. One is quick. I just wonder if you have a go-to recipe for a dinner party of 8 that you can make ahead of time, so you're not in the kitchen the whole time your guests are there.
A menu, you mean?
Or, sure, yeah.
Well, I think
menu would be
the
fine.
important thing to know, and you can obviously you can get it in the book, you can put it together yourself. I don't know, what the tastes of your friends are, but I think that one thing is always to try to do as much ahead as possible. So, and also, I think ironically, and this is something that took me a long time to learn, when people say, "Can I bring something?" say yes, but tell them what to bring. This is how Thanksgiving works at our house, because I obviously am very busy, and the people who come to Thanksgiving are very busy, and as I said, my nephews really want to help now. So what I do is I design my menu, and I know that I'm going to do the turkey and the stuffing. My mom brings a pumpkin pie, but my sister, my other sister will bring the first course, or maybe a vegetable, and my mother wants to make something else, so I give her something else. My nephews want to help out, so for Thanksgiving, it's probably easier to do that than it is. I would say, well, we have a feature in the magazine called Cooking Club, which is it's mainly, that's exactly what it is. It's a dinner party menu for when your friends come over, and either they want to help you a little bit in the kitchen, want to help you a little bit in the kitchen, or you want to do it all yourself. These are recipes, a lot of times, is this a gathering where people like meat, or,
Sure. Yeah.
a slow-cooked a roast or something where you can do the side dishes ahead of time and just reheat them, or you can do a salad to start that you can assemble a salad and then just not dress it until the last minute, and you can put shrimp with it and, things like that, and then do a main course where it's something that's gone into the oven either just as they're arriving or before that, something like an ossobuco, which takes a long time and it's all assembled ahead of time, and then all you have to do is do, mashed potatoes or a pasta alongside of it. And then for dessert, either something that you put together quickly, like a sorbet and a cookie. You don't have to make it, you can buy it. Please do not think that I am expecting that people do dinner parties the way they used to be done. I was speaking yesterday, and when I started at Bon Appétit, as I said, I was working in the test kitchen, and it was my job to type on a typewriter. You may have seen one in a museum. Every single recipe that was in the magazine. And believe me, in those days, everything was French, and we all cooked every single thing because we couldn't buy good bread, we couldn't buy good pâté, we couldn't buy good pasta. So let the well-stocked supermarket or the Whole Foods or the Trader Joe's be your friend. And don't think that you have to make everything. I think the way I do a dinner party now is exactly what I just said. I put something that is sort of like an assembly together that I can just quickly do ahead of time, and then I have a main dish that I can start ahead of time, we do a lot of grilling in LA all year round, and that's really easy to do. I know it's not so easy to do in a New York apartment, but I think part of it is just to think, what sounds good to you in a cookbook or in a magazine will probably be something that your friends will respond to. Have a nice bottle of wine. We have the January issue every year, we do something called Best of the Year. And this year, we have an additional overlay to it. It comes out at the beginning of December. We have an additional overlay to it, which is it's our value issue. It's basically, how to eat well for less. And we have an article in there. There's 20 wines under $10. Not 20 under 20, 20 under 10, and they're good, believe me, because we tasted them all. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to entertain well. I think that's another misconception. But, thinking ahead of time and just, I think what most people have the most trouble with is the timing. So don't stress out about it. Have, some kind of a big dish that you're doing. If it's a super casual party, just make chili and have a couple of, great loaves of bread, or if you want to feel like baking more, do cornbread and a salad or something alongside of it. You don't have to be super fancy unless it's, a special occasion and you want to do something special. So that's a very long answer to a very simple question.
Thank you. Well, let's see what my long question is. I don't even know. I love cream sauces.
Good for you.
Good Alfredo or something. And I love cheese too, but I know you don't want to eat so much of it, especially when you're pregnant. So I'm just wondering if you have any solutions for a dish that tastes like a heavy cream dish but doesn't necessarily.
Well, there are things in the book, and there are things, increasingly in the magazine, and I feel that we've done this all along. You can use half and half in place of cream. When you're doing a reduced kind of sauce, for those of you, who know that you boil down a sauce to thicken it, a lot of times it has cream in it, and the cream will thicken up because the water will evaporate, and it will help thicken the sauce. You can use half and half. The sauce will, it'll have a slightly different texture. It'll probably be a little bit thinner, but it will certainly have the taste. There are a lot of things that you can substitute yogurt for now too, and we've been doing that increasingly in the magazine as well, because we know that from talking to our readers that health is very important to them too. But I'm really happy that you still like cheese, because we have a big article on cooking with cheese coming out in the March issue. Plug, plug, plug. So see, you really should be subscribing to the magazine. So that's good. I mean, I think Americans, we have this really strange love-hate relationship with food right now. Fortunately, not at the magazine, but I understand that people are very concerned about fat and dairy and all kinds of things, and it really just, the quality of their food and where it comes from. We've made, I feel, as a culture and as a nation, great strides in educating everybody about, what food is good for you, what has calories. I was kind of amused about magazines that, do nutritional profiling and things like that, because, we've never done it in Bon Appétit. We do it online for the Fast, Easy, Fresh column, but we've never done it in the magazine. It's something that we, quite frankly, we used to get asked 20 years ago much, much more than we ever do anymore about adding nutritional information, because I presume a certain amount of intelligence on the part of our readership. And I think everybody who's reading it knows that a piece of chocolate cake is going to have more calories than a shrimp salad. So I don't think that, I think a lot of times those nutritional profiles have, they look really good, but the portions are like teeny weeny weeny. I mean, it's like the things that the food marketers are doing now with the 100-calorie cookie packs, and you think, wow, and you kind of pick it up and you think, wow, all those Oreos were only 100 calories. And then you open it up and like 4 pieces of Oreo that are about as thin as a piece of paper. So not that I would have personal experience with this, but the Cheez-Its are more my 100-calorie thing. But anyway, I think that it's good that people, again, embrace the use of real ingredients. And cream and olive oil and butter and cheese and all of these things are certainly naturally good for you and closer to the earth than something that's processed. And there are substitutions that you can make. You can use yogurt for cream, not always. You can use half and half for cream, not always. A lot of times in recipes we'll call for a specific kind of milk. We'll say do not use skim or 2% milk. You have to use whole milk for a certain recipe. But once you get more adept in the kitchen and once you really become more confident in your own cooking, you'll start to see where you can make these substitutions. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for your question.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, my pleasure.
You mentioned one trend that you expect to see with the economy the way it is and perhaps getting worse is that people are cooking at home more.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering whether you also expect people to start switching out the ingredients they use, the things that they eat, and if that will be reflected in your magazine.
You mean from a cost standpoint? Or, well, this is something very interesting, and I'm glad you asked this question. It's an excellent question. There are a lot of, what we used to call humble cuts of meat, lesser cuts of meat, short ribs, oxtail, these long, slow, shanks, those kinds of things. These are not expensive, and they taste fantastic. And if you have the right recipe for them, you're not spending a lot of money. What we're doing, to go back to the January issue, with the sort of the value issue overlay to it, I call it cheap eats, but I didn't think that would sell very well on the newsstand. I don't know. But anyway, we have a dinner party, to go back to our dinner party lady, that we call Luxury for Less. And instead of having a Chateaubriand as a main, we use an eye of round beef roast, which is way less expensive. It comes out in the beginning of December, so in my mind's eye, I kind of saw it as something that people could do for New Year's Eve without breaking the bank. So instead of, regular expensive fancy caviar, we use American caviar, which is way less expensive than the usual. Instead of a lobster bisque, we have a fantastic mussel and fennel bisque. We have the eye of round roast with a lovely Dijon sauce and a really nice potato gratin side dish. And then for dessert, it's a super duper simple pear souffle with a little bit of chocolate sauce on it. So again, these are not expensive. A pound of pears is not expensive. A dozen eggs in the long run to feed 8 people is not a lot. And another thing that we did in the issue, which is so great, is in the Fast, Easy, Fresh column, we challenged our test kitchen team to come up with a week's worth of entrees for under $100. And they came up with 7 killer main courses and a dessert that came out to $79.84. So again, you don't have to necessarily think that you need to be eating lobster or, ribeye steak or that kind of thing. The kinds of things that you can, one of the great things about this book is knowing that there are 80 chicken recipes. If you're walking down the aisle and chicken breasts are on sale, buy 4 packages and stick 3 of them in the freezer. I have no problem with that. People who shop at Costco, there's a Costco near my house that I will say, for those of you who do want to indulge on New Year's Eve, that the Dom Perignon is $89 a bottle instead of $139 a bottle, although they do keep it under lock and key. But anyway, Costco is a great place to go to shop. And if you have a freezer and you can get to a Costco, there's only 2 of us at our house, so it's sometimes a little impractical. But when I entertain, I'll do that because their meats are fantastic. I have one restaurateur friend in LA who has a very popular steak and chop house. And I said to her, one night I noticed that there was a prime meat on the menu instead of whatever the one above that is. And I said, oh, you don't have the prime tonight? She goes, no, Costco has it all. So I thought that was a pretty interesting comment. I will tell you that the person who turned me on to shopping for food at Costco was Julia Child herself. She told me all about the meat. It's just wonderful. So that's the reason that I went. So I don't want anyone to think that good cooking has to be equated with expense, because really the opposite is true. If you take a look at the kinds of things that are in here, sandwiches and burgers and chilies and things like that, and those are also the kinds of things we have in the magazine. Are we altering our editorial a little bit? Because no, I'm not going to have a big lobster dinner, and I'm not going to have some kind of lavish thing. But it's been fun for us too to sort of take a look at what we're doing and temper, be aware of. We've always been very aware of what each recipe costs to make, because we shop at supermarkets in LA. We don't shop in any fancy. We make it a point to shop in a regular supermarket and not buy in bulk, so that we really do have a really good estimation of what it's going to cost you at home. And we don't test on restaurant equipment. Our test kitchen has nice home equipment, but it's nothing like a restaurant BTUs or anything like that. We don't have a lot of fancy bells, no nozzles coming out of the ceiling or anything like that. It's really, it's like a very well-stocked home kitchen, but or a well-tricked out home kitchen, but it's certainly not like a restaurant. So
thank you.
Don't worry about your wallet.
Hello, thank you for coming. I actually used to work in the food industry, but I've been out of it for a couple of years now. But it's interesting to hear what you're talking about with this book in particular, and being from the LA area, I'm interested to hear how you've seen sort of the impact of stores like Fresh and Easy coming over with Tesco and the sorts of things you're talking about. Really, I see sort of 2 consumers, the ones who are like, yeah, I want to be a celebrity chef, and they want to buy all those really unique ingredients and make things. But on the other end, they might do that once a month, but the rest of the month they're looking for like those really convenient items.
Yeah, because they have salmon in their fridge, and if they don't use it tonight, it's going to have to be thrown out.
Right, and it sounds like this book addresses sort of the other end of it. What's sort of the other solution, or is that how you see the consumers of your magazine and your books as well?
Well, I see people crunched for time. I'll tell you quite frankly that we know that the biggest challenge that our readers face is more a matter of finding the time to cook rather than not being able to afford, the good ingredients. But I'm very fortunate in the fact that our readership literally ranges from 25 to over 80. So I'm serving a very wide audience, and of all levels of cooks, and we're very, very aware of that. So we try to, make sure that the recipes are accessible to everybody. To address your point about things like Fresh and Easy coming over, this is a new type of quote-unquote supermarket that's coming over here from England, from the Tesco people, although I'm kind of wondering now, given what's happening with the economy, if it is really going to happen. And my understanding of this is that it's going to be a smaller size market, which I think addresses the time crunch factor too. I know that even here in the city, there are huge Fairway supermarkets and the Food Emporium. I have an apartment here because I'm here so much. The Food Emporium near my apartment is, just as chock full of stuff as the markets near my house in LA. I tend to shop a lot at Trader Joe's myself. because I think what they do is really fantastic and the quality is excellent and it doesn't cost a lot of money. And then on the other side of the coin, for a special occasion, or if I can't find it at Trader Joe's, I'll go to a market called Gelson's, which is sort of towards the high end, like a Fairway would be, or a Wegmans, something like that. So, for instance, for Christmas dinner, I will splurge and go to Gelson's and order the meat. I would, because I know it's going to be the best. So I think that what really matters the most to people right now, whether they're using our book or reading our magazine or not doing any of it, is how something tastes. And the better it is, or the better you know how to treat what you've got, the better it'll taste. It's all really a matter of taste. It will be very interesting to see if Tesco goes forward. I know that they had quite an ambitious plan to open a lot of stores all across the country, and quite frankly, I haven't read anything about it. Did any of them open here? I know one was going to be here in New York. Does anybody know?
I don't know about New York. I had a friend who's working for them in California, in LA, actually, but he's since left, so it may not be working.
Yeah. Do you know where it is by any chance? I should go check it out.
I don't know, but I can find out for you.
No, I'll look it up and just find it. I'll Google it. Ha ha ha. Yeah, there you go. Like everybody does. We couldn't even exist without you guys. Talk about something that's changed our lives as cooks and editors. It's Google. No question.
Hi, thanks for coming. My question is, what kind of people do you employ in the test kitchens? Are they classically trained chefs?
Just like you. Would you like a job in the test kitchen?
Absolutely. Please.
Is this a subtle request for a job?
Hint? No.
It seems like a pretty nice place to work here. We have everybody in our test kitchen. Actually, we have no person who has worked, I take that, but we have no person who's worked as an executive chef. Sarah Tenalia, who's our senior food editor, worked at Chez Panisse on the line for a while. Christine Kidd, who's a food editor, was a cooking teacher as well as a caterer. Janet McCracken worked as a caterer and also wrote for the LA Times for a while before I hired her. We have two women in the test kitchen, Alina Birnbaum and Selma Morrow, who are very accomplished home cooks. And I will tell you a story that when I started at Bon Appétit in 1978, Selma and Lena were already testing recipes for Bon Appétit. We had a completely different way of doing the magazine. They were freelancers. I had a whole slew of freelance testers who brought the food in. We didn't even really have a real test kitchen. It was amazing. We even managed to get a magazine out. And Selma and Lena were testing recipes already. And they are just simply home cooks who took cooking classes. And I think what is very good about every person who's in charge of what we call styling our recipes, which means putting them into our language and making sure that they work for you, is that they're not coming from a super duper professional. I mean, of course now they are because they've been working at the magazine, but they're not coming from, the hotel school in Lausanne or even the CIA for that matter. It is such a nice place to work. We don't really have openings in the test kitchen very often. But we interview, the people coming in now to interview, and we do courtesy interviews. I mean, most of the people coming in now have been to some sort of culinary school, whether it's a local school or something, like the CIA or something fancier. We get, the younger people coming in, and they are. But basically, I'm very proud of the fact that they are people who really can identify with the people who use the magazine because they are. I mean, that's true about everybody who works on it, which is great. I mean, I have people, very young people who are, assistant editors, editorial assistants on my staff who weren't necessarily foodies when they got there. They kind of liked it, or they knew the magazine and thought it might be interesting, or they like to eat out. That was another, one of the things I always like to ask in an interview is, do you know the difference between the stove and the refrigerator? And then I wonder if I can even ask that these days. But anyway, so knowledge of food helps, but once you get into it, that's what I find. The people who stay for a long time because they really get into the subject matter. It's not just that they get fed twice a day.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
What can you say about cooking for two? Now that my kids are in college, my wife and I have no idea what to do anymore. Because after 4,000 meals you've made for four people,
Well, it's funny because we have a lot of recipes in the book that are 2 servings, and in the Fast, Easy, Fresh column, we have a lot of recipes that are on the 4-serving to 2-serving side. I mean, I think one thing, because I'm from a 2-person household, there are 2 ways to do it. One is to cook just for the 2 of you. One is to cook and do a little bit more so you have leftovers for another meal.
Right.
And one is when you have people over, which is what we start to do, is what we started to do is, we make extra on purpose. So if we are grilling, we'll buy extra, we'll grill it and have that for leftover to plan the meals. But, I have to say, I think cooking for two is much easier now than it used to be, because things come packaged in smaller quantities. I think it's something that the marketplace has responded to. You see, 2 chicken breasts or 4 chicken breasts in a thing instead of you can also buy the trays of 8 and 10. But, if you're not shopping at Costco or Walmart, I think it's pretty easy to cook for 2 people. And again, it's just a matter of sort of getting your own confidence and becoming more used to being in the kitchen. And the more you cook, the more you learn about your own taste and how to do it.
That
it's just kind of getting your own head out of cooking for 6 people or 5 people. It really is pretty easy. And again, the book has a lot of smaller ones and a lot of smaller serving ones, and there's always packaging it up and freezing it. Although I don't usually like to do that cooked food, but buying extra and having more. I have 2 veal chops in my freezer right now because I bought too much for the last time we had a big fancy dinner party. They're not cooked yet, but.
Thank you.
I'll add, just as an addition to your question, there's a pretty cool section of the index in this book. It's by serving size, the very back section, so you can look it up by 1
Thank
serving,
you.
2 servings.
Your check is in the mail. Anybody else? Oh, good.
Thanks for coming.
Pleasure.
Can you talk a little bit about the decision to change the look of the magazine about a year ago?
Yes, I'd be happy to talk about that. It was time to sort of reinvent and refresh the magazine. It was, 50 years old in 2006, and it wasn't as if we're not constantly changing and evolving, but we are. And in a certain way, I felt that a lot of the magazines in our category, which is a very rapidly ever-expanding category. It's funny. When I first started at Bon Appétit, there were about 4 food magazines. Then in the early, the mid-'80s, the category just grew and grew and grew. And then by the beginning of the 90s, it had contracted again. And now here we are, as we approached the end of the 20th century, the category started growing again. And we had all these other factors, celebrity chefs and the Food Network and all this kind of thing that feeding into the culture, so that like Google became part of the culture, food has definitely become part of the culture. And I thought that a lot of magazines in our category, quite frankly, were starting to look alike. And I thought it was time to sort of, not change the core, not change our mission, not change what we do, the best tasting food, the most accessible, the most empowering tips and techniques, all of that stuff. But I thought we could use a little bit of sprucing up, and I also thought that we needed to have the front of the magazine in particular reorganized and really also address some of the things that we knew were of concern to our readers. So for one thing, because of the popularity of Fast, Easy, Fresh, one of the simple things I did was I took that from the back of the magazine and moved it to the front so that everybody would know where it is. One of the things that's interesting is that if you and I were to sit down with a magazine, a Bon Appétit magazine from 3 years ago, and this issue, I can guarantee you that you'd have almost the exact same content. It's just presented in a different way. I think we stripped away some of what was perceived to be complexity, and really, really have become even more user-friendly and much more hard-hitting. We've tried some different things with the photography, again, simply because I thought it was time to really explore what could be done. I don't want to make this magazine, it's not going to be, the GQ of food, and it's not going to be, New York Magazine, but there were things that we could do that we could kind of change it up. The big change for us was the change in the logo. And we hadn't had a change of logo in 17 years, and it turned out, once we got started down this path, that when we changed the logo 17 years ago, we hadn't had a change 17 years before that. So I can guarantee you we're going to be far shorter than 17 years this next time. But I thought, again, in a crowded marketplace, there was it's time to sort of make yourself stand out again, because we have the best magazine, and I want people to know that we're not only there, but we're as fresh as ever, and as accessible as ever, and as delicious as ever. And that's really why we did it. I think other than the logo change. If the logo had not been changed, I don't think there would have been that much that would have been noticed about it. You know, the photography kind of changes subtly. We didn't sort of do it all at once. That what you would have noticed in the February issue was when we debuted 3 new columns in the front of the magazine. We have a family column now called Family Style. We have Molly Weisenberg, who's a blogger as Orangette, who's writing a lovely column called Cooking Life every month that has a recipe. And we have a health column that's an essay column. I wanted to have more in the magazine, in the front of the magazine, that was writerly, but also very much addressing the topics that I felt were, you know, of concern to our readers. We didn't take anything away. We added all those things. So I think that's kind of the beauty of what we did. As I said, if we hadn't have changed the logo, I think, you know, with the exception of a few stories that were kind of far out there, no one would have said anything except, oh, look, it's looking better than ever. So, but I thank you for bringing that up, because it's something I don't really get asked a lot anymore.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, my pleasure. And if you do have the book, I'm happy to go wherever you're taking me to sign it.
I think we're taking you upstairs to Hemisphere.
Okay, to Hemispheres. Oh, wow. All right. Thank you all very much.